Okay, supply side economics. So this is lesson number 52, and this is the second lesson on macroeconomics. And you must get an understanding of supply side economics. It is probably the most important thing in economics, all right? But we need supply side economics and we also need demand side, but you want to get a good understanding of what supply side economics is about. And what I have on my classroom wall is supply side economics really high up on the ceiling, and it's got all the various policies there, and I've got a big stick out every lesson and I'll point to it and say this is what supply side economics is, so people know exactly what it is. Right, so supply side economics is using microeconomic incentives to achieve macro goals. And if you can remember what the macro goals were from lesson 51, which was full employment, price stability, economic growth, and also balance of payments equilibrium. Right, so we want to try and use various policies to make sure that our economy works well. And broadly, there are four main areas: labour market reform. The books will call it product market reform, but I like to think of it as firms, but firms produce products obviously. Capital market reform, which is all about banks and making sure that banks use their money in the right way. And finally, creating enterprise within an economy. Okay, so this is people. This is a firm which produces products. This is the banking system. And here down below is enterprise. And your job as an economist is to make sure that you create economies which is good supply side and creates enterprise, and then hopefully the long run aggregate supply curve, lesson 51, will shift outwards. Okay, so what are the policies? Well, if you reduce income tax, then the idea is that people will work harder because they'll be earning more of their own money. This was probably mainly seen in the Thatcher era, when the top rate of income tax for some people was 98%. So for every extra pound that they earned, they took home 2 pence. Now that had a huge effect on the economy. The next one is if you decrease welfare benefits, that may force people out to work, and at the same time, if you decrease income tax, then there'll be a greater incentive for people to find jobs. Also, if we train people up, then they will be able to earn more money, and if they can earn more money, then they're more likely to go out and to find a job. So we have labour market reform. For the firms want the right infrastructure, so it's easier for them to set up. At the same time, they would also like lower corporation tax, which is a tax on the firm's profits. So what this government, which has been very canny, has been willing to decrease corporation tax, so therefore there's more investment, and if there's more investment, that will shift out the long run aggregate supply curve again. There's lots of things on here though, things like privatisation, deregulation. Basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to open the whole market up to competition. Banks. Obviously now there's much greater control of the banks because of the financial crisis, which was created in 2008. But the idea is that we save to banks, banks invest in the economy, and that will once again shift out the long run aggregate supply curve. And obviously we always want to create an enterprise culture. America is a great example of a country with an enterprise culture. But within the UK, we also have quite a strong enterprise culture where 15% of the whole population who is working are actually self-employed. Right? I believe in enterprise culture, very much so, because that's what creates the innovation, and hence I wear the t-shirt Self-Help Africa, which is all about giving people the money so that they will then go out and create their own form of wealth, and then economies can move from there. Even though there's no way I'm a Tory, but you must create enterprise within the economy. Right. So on here we have a picture of the economy, which is the ASAD curve, price level and real national income. So fundamentally what happens is when you use supply side economics, the AS curve will shoot out. Now the huge advantage of that is that when we get to increase aggregate demand, we can increase aggregate demand and we are getting higher growth. Okay, so we start here. Then we move to here, and it looks as if we're getting a little bit more inflation. There's a bit of a trade-off effect occurring, but we have got growth. We've moved from NY to NY dash, okay? But let's increase the AS curve again, and also at the same time increase AD. And what happens is, hey presto, inflation has fallen, and we've now got a high level of national income. So essentially what economics is all about is shifting out the aggregate supply curve, and at the same time shifting out the aggregate demand curve, and then our economy will be successful. Now you've got to be careful when you teach students this, because they think at the end of lesson 2 that they understand everything about economics, and all we've got to do is shift out the AS curve and shift out the AD curve at the same rate, and our economies are going to be very successful. The reason why that is because we've got more jobs, so we've got more national income, we've got more growth because we move from here to here, we've got price stability because the prices has stayed stable all the way through, and hopefully the balance of payments will improve because of supply side economics. However, this particular model in the UK is, as we've demanded more goods, we've tended to buy more imports, which has created a problem in our balance of payments, and hence in the year 2013 we had a record trade deficit. But supply side economics is all about shifting out the AS curve, and it's about creating the right culture, the right attitude, the right enterprise through these 4 methods here to create a successful economy. And as all students will say in the exam, is we have great supply side, then everything else is going to be okay. However, I can assure you the economy is not that easy. But essentially, if you sort of work it out that you have great policies here and you increase AD at the same time, then you're going to have a successful economy. You understand that by the end of the second lesson in macroeconomics, you're doing okay.